A young man in uniform, a young woman, perhaps with a baby on her arm. They kiss goodbye on a train platform, hoping, but not knowing, that they will meet again some sunny day. This is the story of two women out of tens of millions around the world who are forced to navigate loneliness, longing, and loyalty during World War II. This is On the Homefront, a series of World War II in real time. I'm Anna Deinhard. Today I want to introduce you to two women from Great Britain and Germany, war wives, home alone when their men go to war. They are Mary Clayton from Great Britain and Indy from Germany. Their lives will be documented by later historians, Mary by Colin and Eileen Townsend in the book War Wives, a Second World War anthology, and Inge by Gerda Stepanski in Blitzmädel, Heldenmutter, Kriegerwitwe, Frauenleben im Zweiten Weltkrieg. Mary Clayton is from the English Midlands. She married her husband Sam in July 1936. Soon after, the young couple has a son named Bobby. Sam earns the money, Mary cares for the household and the baby. When war breaks out, Sam is called up. He becomes one of 2.25 million men who have been enlisted by mid-1940, meaning that many wives are not just alone, but also without the better part of their income. The separation allowance paid to them by the army is usually not nearly enough to maintain the household. A wife with 2 children on average receives only 38% of the family's pre-war income. The exact amount depends on the husband's salary grade, of which there are over 200. Mary receives £1 and 10 shillings of army pay per week. Fixed prices and rationing means it's enough to cover her weekly shopping, but it's hard to also pay rent and other living costs, which are not as heavily regulated. So Mary gives up the family home and finds a job in a vicar's household to do the housekeeping. This way, she can bring up her son in a Christian home, receive a wage of her own, and save on paying for coal, electricity, and rent. In these early days of the war, German wives are slightly better off. Inge met her fiancé Karlheinz some years before the war, and they marry in March 1940. At first, the newlyweds live in perfect happiness. Karlheinz is not in the Wehrmacht and continues his job while Inge is at home. All is well, it seems, as victory after victory is announced on the radio. Sure, there are the Eva Longe death notice in the newspapers, but that will be over soon, right? For Mary, things take a turn for the worse at this point. Shortly after the invasion of Western Europe in May 1940, letters from Sam stop arriving. Letters are the only way for loved ones to stay in contact, and it can take weeks to arrive. But when an expected letter fails to come, you still often jump to the worst conclusions. Mary soon receives the news she has been dreading. 140,000 British soldiers are wounded or dead in France, and Sam is presumed to be among the fallen. His death is not confirmed yet. If it was, mourning him would be made worse by even more economic hardship. If Mary is declared a widow, she will lose her separation allowance. Now, the average widow soldier wife in England is only 23 years old and therefore presumed fit for work. They receive £1 as their weekly pension, even less than the pay that already forced Mary to leave her home. Getting by as a widow is so difficult that many give their children to a foster family or even orphanage. But then in September 1940, Mary finally receives comforting news. Sam is not dead. He was captured and is in an POW camp in Poland. But then her current employer, the vicar, goes to war too. Out of a job and now homeless, little Bobby and she have to move in with her mother and stepfather. In Germany, Karlheinz is called up in the spring of 1941. To Inge's relief, he's drafted as a mechanic in occupied Poland, the Generalgouvernement, far away from any fighting. And the financial consequences are not so bad. To keep morale high, the Nazis aim to maintain the living standards of soldiers' families. A German wife with 2 children is paid about 73% of the family's pre-war income. Some women who were still working feel so financially secure that they quit their jobs during the first 2 years of the war. From May 1939 to May 1941, the number of working married women decreases by nearly 500,000. Ideologically, this is what the Nazis wanted. But the reality of war is different than the Nazis would like. There are 5 to 6 million war wives in total. Inge is among the 2.5 million of them who are married, receive an allowance, but are without children. The Nazis now change their minds and start pressing the childless wives to go to work. Inge takes a job in a factory, but she writes that she doesn't like working for the war, which she thinks is cruel. She keeps finding excuses to not show up. When she learns she is pregnant, she is released from her job. In Great Britain, not long after moving in with her parents, Mary starts getting letters from Sam again. She also finds a new job at the military canteen of the YMCA, the Young Men's Christian Association. Many of the young men she is helping to feed try to flirt with her and offer to walk her home. The more Puritan morals of the 1930s are changing. The emotional stress of war is leading men and women alike to seek an outlet, and sex is one of the few remaining wartime pleasures. Many men find comfort at the official army brothels or start relationships with foreign women during the service. Many women will go to dances organized for allied troops and locals. Romances are inevitable, and being married is not a hindrance. As an anonymous 24-year-old woman from Manchester describes, "With Rick, I knew it was love, but for me it was attraction and the need to hold on to someone. So it happened that we finally made love. There was nothing cheap about our affair, and if Rick had my body, my heart was with my husband, and somehow I didn't feel that I was doing anything wrong." Between 1940 and 45, the number of illegitimate births in Great Britain will be more than 100,000 higher than in the previous 6 years. And that's only the registered number. There are many, many more little children brought up by unsuspecting or tolerant stepfathers. Mary, too, expresses feelings of desperate loneliness in her diary, but she stays faithful to her Sam. In Germany, Inge feels the pangs of loneliness as well. Around Christmas 1941, she leaves her marital home and moves in with her mother to have help when the baby comes. When it does, it takes 10 months until Karl-Heinz can come home for a few days to meet his daughter. As happy as Inge is to have him back, she feels like the two of them have spent too much time apart. They are young people, and many of them report that war, work, and time apart has changed them. Long-anticipated reunions often turn into disappointments, arguments, and sometimes divorce. An official legal text in 1941 states, "With worries, many women observe how the solidarity and mutual sympathy in their marriage are suffering under the long duration of the war." In a time when divorce is considered immoral, even unthinkable for many, the SS Situation Report for the Reich expresses concerns about rising divorce rates throughout the war. In Great Britain, petitions for divorce go from less than 10,000 in 1938 to 25,000 in 1945. While Inge and Karl-Heinz argue, Mary would be glad to see her husband at all, but he remains at POW, and she is alone with her little son. On July 30th, 1942, she writes in a diary of loneliness during a bombing raid, "Tonight is worse than ever. I would feel better if I had someone to sit with me. I'm sorry to say this, but the people around here think I'm stuck up. Perhaps I am, but I couldn't join in the get-togethers over beer and laughter when so much terror went on. Bombs drop around us." She will stay alone and faithful for 5 long years, and when Sam finally returns, he will tell her about what she will call his little disloyalties. He will apologize, but she will be heartbroken and express regret that she didn't take up some of those offers of romance after all. But like so many other couples of their generation, they see no choice but to learn to live with what happened during their separation. It's easy to forget that for most who served and their sweethearts, these were what many people consider the best years of one's life. These millions of people were my age, even younger than me, a time when you have just begun adult life. A time for romance, for starting work or studying. For some, a time to start a family. For all of us, a time to pursuit of love, sex, and entertainment. And that's difficult enough in peacetime. If you want to know about Soviet women's situation before and during the Second World War, you should watch my video on Soviet gender equality. Don't forget to join the Time Ghost Army on patreon.com or timeghost.tv. Subscribe and ring that bell.